born in Mexico. My mom brought us here to start a better life and give us opportunities she ever had. So when we arrived here to San Jose, we arrived in East San Jose. I was raised in a small two-bedroom affordable housing unit. For about 27 years, my mom worked at a minimum wage job, really trying to put food on the table. And seeing her go off to work every day really instilled in me the values of hard work, of family, of being resilient, bouncing back. And so through her love and support, I was able to be the first in my family to go to college. Soon after starting college, I met my wife, Patricia, who's a social worker and works down the street. And we have 3 children, been married 16 years. When we decided to start a family and moved to District 2, I've been in District 2 about 13 years. And been very active, started a neighborhood association called Oak Grove Neighborhood Association. We have about 900 members on nextdoor.com. Very active. I've also been on the Parks Commission for 6 years, 2 of those which I was the chair of the commission. But you know, as you can tell from my story, I've been in different parts of the city. Grew up in District 5, been in District 2 for a while. But professionally, I've actually spent a lot of time in and around downtown. Whether it was my work at the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley, it's moved to a few spots, or it was my work here at San Jose National Bank and Small Business Administration many years ago. I know downtown well, and like you, I care about it. I want to see a vibrant downtown. I want to see murals. I want to see signs. I want to see lights. I want to get a good meal after 11 o'clock. And that's what I hope to accomplish as a council member. Look forward to hearing your questions and certainly answering them. Thank you.
First question, and it's going to go. The first is going to go to Sergio, and then Steve. So, question is, do you look at your job on the council as doing what's best for the city, or what's best for your district? Yeah.
So this is that mini mayor idea, right? The idea that council members take a very they want to make all the decisions in their district. And I can tell you I'm not a mini mayor. I see the need to really work together and collaboratively with all the different council members. As I know, as I've mentioned, grew up in District 5, live in District 2, I'm familiar with District 3, and professionally I'm an investigator for the Public Defender's Office. So I spend my time on a daily basis driving around all parts of the city and all parts of the county, and so I know it well. If elected, I will certainly take into consideration everything that my colleagues on the city council have to share and hope that they do the same. So I am not in favor of being a mini mayor, as they call it.
Thank you. Steve, same question.
Well, I think primarily, obviously, we're the 10th largest city in the nation here. As a council member, I have to concentrate on how to develop and benefit the San Jose as a whole. But I think it's a balance. I think it's a balance between not only San Jose as a whole, but also our district. District 2 has been neglected. We look at a lot of development that goes on throughout San Jose, and it would be good for us to have more of an advocacy for District 2. However, the role of a council member is to make some huge changes as we see coming up here in 2017, and I would be looking centrically at us as a whole as a city.
Thank you. All right, second question. Steve, this will go to you first. What is your position on pension reform for San Jose, and do you support the City Alternative Pension Reform Act on the November ballot?
I do support Measure F. Looking at it, it is a step in the right direction. There are some areas that I would have critiqued, or I can critique a little bit, but overall, it's a step in the right direction. It's important for us to realize that we're in a position here that's has some dire consequences, both in overtime, the lack of controls that we have on the streets, and it's really important for us to have that change.
Sergio, same question.
I am in support of Measure F. I voted against Measure B. At the time, as a resident, I was hearing some of the council members talking about lawsuits, the exodus of employees, obviously officers being the most prominent. And I think if you look at the issue objectively, you see that it's come to pass. And so now we're at close to 800 officers, patrol-ready officers, and for a city of 1 million, I think that's terrible. And I think we need to do better. I really do think that Measure F is not about pensions, it's about rehiring, it's about staffing, it's about bringing levels back to where we were back in 2008 or higher. And so I'm in support of Measure F, and I look forward to moving past this because I know the residents are tired of the debate going back and forth. So Measure B, the new Measure B, you know, I was proud to have worked with the leadership group in 2008 to try to get that Measure B passed. So I am a fan of bringing rail all around the Bay, and I worked diligently with Carl to help bring you know, it up to Berryessa. So I want to see it come to downtown. I think it's crucial, and obviously all the other money that's going to be allocated to road repairs and such, I think that's something that many of the residents can relate to and that they want. And so I'm in support of that. Measure G, you know, I think the city's struggling with revenue, right? They don't have enough resources to really do what we need to do, and so I think we all need to share in the burden. And as you well know, the business tax hadn't been touched in 30 years. So, and as I told the Chamber of Commerce, I thought it was worth looking at, and I think this is a good compromise given what was potentially going to come on the ballot, you know, brought forward by Mr. Scott Myers. So I'm in support of it.
Thank you. Steve, same question.
I'm in support of Measure B. I like what I see, particularly it being a direct tax. Looking at the fact that 60% or thereover would be directly contributed to improving our roads and our infrastructure, widening our freeways. I think that's long been needed. Now, regarding Measure G, I haven't made a complete verdict on it yet. There are some concerns that I have with the measurement of what constitutes a small business. I have had some phone conversations with Sam Ricardo as well as the Chamber, and we're scheduling some meetings to go over the technical information. One of the concerns is what designates a small business, whether that's 3 or under employees, or whether it's 12 or under. And once I get that answer, then I can make a firm stance on it.
Thank you. The next question is a good District 2 question. And we're going to start with Steve. The question is, the high-speed rail business plan now includes an at-grade alignment. Do you see the City Council's role in ensuring that San Jose gets what it needs from the high-speed rail authority? Or what do you see as the City Council's role in ensuring that San Jose gets what it needs from the high-speed rail authority?
Well, in reading through the memorandum that goes through the specifications for the latest 43-page, one of the things that sticks out to me is the recommended specs. And for me in San Jose, I think it's very important for us to hold accountable within the project to make sure that what we believe will be the specs will be upheld. So one of the problems that I have is that in speaking to a lot of different residents, and of course here downtown especially with the question here, what the logistics or the looks of the impact will be here as a whole. So as a council member, I think my #1 role will be to make sure that whatever we agree to as an organized community is adhered to within those specs, and I don't have the gray area of that statement recommended instead of having natural.
Sergio, same question.
I'm in support of high-speed rail, but when you say at grade, I think in District 2, what I've seen so far is it's going to be a viaduct, an 80-foot viaduct, and I know that the residents aren't very happy about that, and quite frankly, I'm not either. I think it's going to create a lot of noise. So one of the things that I think the city needs to do is really leverage its stance as being the largest city here in Northern California, the 3rd largest in the state of California. Because I'm not in favor of having towns such as Morgan Hill or Palo Alto or Gilroy sort of dictate how it's going to play out here in San Jose. With regard to at grade here downtown, I'd be curious as to how that's going to play out. I don't know if, I think I've heard someone comment that there's going to be, it may potentially go over 280 and 87, and I'm not quite sure exactly how that will look. Now, if it's an at grade connection to Diridon, what concerns me there is the impact on residential homes, on folks' homes, as well as businesses. Because I know, for example, when light rail came in many years ago, and I know, as you well know, that's what created the Downtown Association. I had a friend that owned a business that was called Pen and Brush, and he went out of business when light rail was created. And you don't need to look that far back, actually. Here on Allen Rock, Bus Rapid Transit, BTA's work there is causing something similar. So I want to be very cognizant of how it impacts the residents and businesses. And so at grade, it just depends what part of the line we're talking about. But I'm interested in figuring out exactly how you all see and want it to come into downtown.
Thank you. All right, next question. We're going to start with Steve on this. Do you support the so-called Opportunity to Work initiative on the November ballot that would require some San Jose employers to offer full-time positions to their part-time workers? How does this measure make San Jose a more friendly, efficient, and cost-effective environment for business?
I don't support it. And the reason why I don't support it is that I don't feel that the makers or supporters of it do the due diligence to speak to our actual employers here of small business. Owning a company myself employs 120 employees. I can tell you I was a consultant, and most of my employees are not paid minimum wage. However, looking at the effect of having a person in a project where one person 24 hours a day on a 168-hour contract will dictate to have at least 4 part-time employees. No one came to my organization or the other businesses that I'm familiar with and asked for that impact within their business structure. And I think that it's a bit of a recluse decision-making process here that could affect our businesses negatively.
Sergio, same question?
So I understand that obviously the business community is not in favor of this. I've read it, some of the issues are, the lack of collaboration, which I know nothing about. I wasn't part of that. But I can assure you that anything going forward, I want to make sure I am collaborative and do have discussions, which I've been having with a host of folks. So I am in support of it. One thing that brings to mind when I think about this measure is my mom, as I mentioned, for 27 years worked at Carl Jr. And her employer was very thoughtful as to how many hours they gave her. She was a consistent full-time employee for 27 years, and that was able to give us the consistency to having her around. And quite frankly, if she wouldn't have had that, I'm not quite sure I'd be sitting here with you today. And so the irony for me is that the consistency and the clarity that her employer gave her is the very thing that businesses want. And so I think fortunately, a lot of businesses are doing the right thing, but there are also a lot of businesses that are not. And so, can we devise a better crafted plan? I'm sure we can. I can't speak to the collaboration, but I know there's language in there that's going to allow some discretion to the city council members to adjust it as they see fit, as long as it's not negatively impacted. So I look forward to having those conversations.
All right, next question. Sergio, this will go to you. Small business is the backbone of the city's tax base. Yet many small businesses say it is more difficult and expensive than ever to open in San Jose. What will you do to improve the city's performance in this area?
Well, I think in that comment, I think what comes to mind for me is rents. I think that's probably one of we don't have to look any further than camera 12, right? I think that's one of the reasons they went out of business, or are going out of business, the rents. And so oftentimes I think we think about wages, but we often forget about rents. And so some of the things that I think the city needs to do is we need to increase the number of folks helping small businesses. We only have 2. We have Mr. Juan Borelli and then another employee that's been charged with helping all small businesses get through the permitting process. I don't think that's enough. I think we need to increase that. I also want to bring back I think it was called the Business Development Commission that Mayor Reed did away with some time back. I think that's very important. And I think that the city needs to do a better job of leveraging the resources and the connections of the ethnic chambers to make sure that the benefits that you all have from having the Downtown Association, that we have those all across the city. And I can also tell you that I've committed that in the first 90 days, I will have a town hall meeting in District 2 to bring together all the business owners to start the formation of a neighborhood business association, because that does not exist in our area. And there's some natural impediments there, but I feel confident that we can work towards that. So thank you.
I think we have a lack of understanding of what we do as a city and how that affects small business. Number one, it's very expensive to do business in San Jose. Typically, if someone's looking at a space to move into, they're going to look at permit fees are going to be in the realm of 8%. Typically within the Bay Area, any city that's trying to bring in new business is going to be attracted to some of our neighboring cities that are offering 4%. That's a huge, huge double. On top of that, looking at small business, one of the issues is the amount of time it takes for permits to be approved. I was speaking to a business owner that went ahead, signed a lease before waiting for the permits to be approved. And ultimately, because of the longevity of the permit approval process, she ended up having to close her business because she had to pay her lease payment without having those permits completed. So I think one of the things we need to do, and Sam is making, and the rest of the Chamber of Commerce is making a big motion, as well as our city council members, some of them, to expedite the process, to have it easier for businesses to start their innovation here in San Jose.
The next question, Steve, is going to go to you. What is your position regarding the $950 million countywide housing bond on the November ballot that would charge $12.66 per $100,000 of assessed valuation, both secured and non-secured, on all real estate and business property?
Well, as some of you may know, I do own a not-for-profit that benefits the homeless here in San Jose. But I have some concerns with this. I have some concerns with the fact of it's a very complicated issue, complicated in the way of drug abuse, alcohol abuse, merely looking at us as saying that $950 million will solve our homeless issue here in San Jose, I don't think is a step in the right direction. However, I do think that it has great intentions, but within those great intentions, I think we need to streamline and have an understanding a little bit better. Right now, Destination Home did our last study back in 2012, a census of all of our homeless, demographically where they came from, the reasons why behind it, substance abuse, mental illness. I think it's time for us to reassess that number before we make such a huge investment or ask for that from our business owners and our people here in San Jose.
Thank you. Sergio, same question?
I'm in support of it, and I'm glad to hear that the Downtown Association just voted 4-1 to support it as well. I think you all are at the epicenter of it, right? At St. James Park, and you see a lot along the creek here. I think there are way too many people living on the street. We need to do a better job of caring for them, and obviously finding the housing and with whether it's affordable housing or supportive housing or whatever it may be. One of the big issues is always the resources. And so the money that this measure will raise, I think, is vitally important. And I, as a homeowner, am willing to put some of the burden on my shoulders and pay that extra tax in order to provide homes for the folks that are most needy in our community. But I think that the money in the measure, as I've read it, there's also going to be money set aside for first-time home buyers and other folks that really sometimes get left out of the equation when we think about housing and homeless, because I don't think it's that simple. And I think this is just one of many solutions that we need to put forward to address the issue, because as I tell voters at the doors, it's not something that you should expect me or any other council member to solve in our tenure. So I just hope to push it in the right direction, and I really do think that Measure A is part of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the last question. Sergio, we'll start with you. What is your vision for investment in our civic culture? Would you support a 1% for arts levy on development in San Jose?
You know, I have to be honest with you, when I read this question, I was thinking, is that a 1% levy, like just all around San Jose in this particular, business improvement district? But I'd like to tell you that I think the arts and civic and culture and such is very important to me. As you all know, the vibrancy of downtown increases, and it gets to be great, I think, when we have these festivals, when we have the California Theater going with some shows. I'm all about that. As I mentioned in my introductory comments, that I want to see a vibrant downtown. I don't want to have to go to San Francisco to go to a nice art gallery. And we have the San Jose Museum of Art, which is great. But there's things like that I often think that we lack, and I want to go ahead and move us in the right direction. And so I would need more information, but as a far left liberal, I would be supportive of taxes, as they say.
Same question?
I wouldn't be in support of a levy, but like my opponent here, I would be in support of us trying to bolster civically more of a program that envelops our youth. Generationally, I grew up here experiencing coming down to the civic auditorium and being involved in different performances. And I think that may be something in the way of our school boards, countywide, as well as some different programs of funding, not necessarily a particular 1% levy.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to give a 2-minute close, and we'll start there with Sergio. Close in 2 minutes, that'd be great.
Thank you. So my close is going to be shorter than my intro. I just want to suggest to you that, or put forward the idea that I think we as a city have a lot left to do. I think oftentimes, and your organization's great, you do a great job of advocating for small businesses, but the reality is that there's many small businesses across the city that don't get the attention or the care that's needed to really get them to the level where a lot of businesses here are. So I look forward to working with you. And you can speak to anyone that I've interacted with, whether it be the chamber, whether it be labor groups, whether it be police and fire. I'd like to think of myself as very collaborative. I don't make decisions in a vacuum. I look forward to having many, many conversations with many of you, many of the businesses here. I'm proud to be supported by the council member that represents downtown. And he and I have, I think, a similar vision as to how we want to see it develop. I work not too far from here. My wife works right across from St. James Park. I know it like the back of my hand, and you can rest assured that I'm going to put a lot of effort and thought into making it the vibrant downtown I think we need. So thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. Steve?
This race is made up of two diametrically opposed views. One view that the current situation that we're in as a city, both economically and developmentally, is based upon bad business and employers. And you look at some of the verbiage here regarding the solutions, and they're all centered around how business could effectively improve these issues. Well, San Jose is in a surplus. 2016 will be a record-breaking number for us. I believe the current number is 40 million more that we've made in revenue than we did in 2015. In 2015, we made more revenue than we did in 2014. The reality is that we need good fiscal accountability up on the 18th floor. We need good planning on the 18th floor. We need to attract the right businesses contiguously within San Jose so we can develop it appropriately, slowly enough that we can deal with all of that population growth. Right now, San Jose is made up of a population density of a little over 80%. Los Angeles is made up of 85%. We have some issues here. I don't want to see San Jose turn to Los Angeles. I do want us to continue to be contiguous for growth and commerce, but I also don't want to see our residents and their children moving out of San Jose. Moving out because it's too expensive to live here, it's too difficult to get a job, and watching our population boom as it has been, but not supporting those young men and women that should be the next generation working here. So I think it's very important to understand that I don't believe that business is bad. I don't believe that the associations that support businesses are bad. I actually believe that the dialogue should come from business, especially when we're making decisions in City Hall that's going to affect business. As a business owner, even as a homeless advocacy group owner, I own a 501c3, I haven't had the county supervisors, I haven't had the city council members come to my organization and ask me questions on how we can solve the homeless crisis issue. I think that's a needed change that we have here. Good dialogue, not just from two different camps, but from the entire community, including this one. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. Steve and Sergio, on behalf of the Downtown Association, we want to thank you guys for taking your time this morning, coming down here and letting us all get to know you better. I think, our friends in South District 2 are good hands with both of you, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much.